Hello everyone, today I would like to talk about Machiavelli and one of his most famous quotes, the end justifies the means. First of all, it is important to know that Machiavelli never wrote this sentence. This sentence was made up centuries after. In fact, Machiavelli's works created a turmoil in the cultural and political and religious situation of his times. He was the first to analyze politics without moral, in a scientific way. In fact, he's considered the father of political science. He wanted to analyze politics the way they are, the way they actually are, not the way it should be. And for this reason, his works were considered immoral. And of course, this created a turmoil. And it created also a debate that goes on still today. Machiavelli is still alive in the political debate, in the philosophical debate. So Machiavelli never wrote "the end justifies the means." This sentence was made up, was a simplification of his point of view. It was written by an Italian literary critic, Francesco De Sanctis, in 19th century. He simplified Machiavelli, saying that he wrote "the end justifies the means." And as it sometimes happens, simplifications are successful. So still today we say that Machiavelli said this sentence, even if he didn't. But he wrote something a little bit similar. Of course, it cannot be simplified like the end justifies the means, because every sentence has a biggest meaning. But I would like to analyze the phrase that he actually wrote that can somehow resemble the end justifies the means. This phrase is contained in the 18th chapter of The Prince. Quo modo fides a principibus sit servanda, the titles are in Latin. So this chapter talks about how princes, how rulers have to be trustworthy or not. This sentence says something like this. Facci dunque uno principe di vincere e mantenere lo Stato, e mezzi saranno sempre giudicati onorevoli e da ciascuno laudati. Which means, let the prince win and maintain his state. The means will always be judged honorable and will be praised by everyone. So, in this phrase, Machiavelli says, he doesn't talk about justification. The end justifies the means has a moral, it defines a moral standard, because when you talk about justification, you're talking about morals. Machiavelli doesn't talk about morals. He's a scientist, like doctor talks about the body without a moral meaning. He just says how it works. Machiavelli does the same. So he says that whenever a prince wins, he maintains his state, he remains in power, what actually happens is that the means that he used will be judged honorable and praised. It has nothing to do with morals. It has to do with what happens when you maintain the power. So it's just a simple indication to rulers. It means that whenever you maintain your power, nobody will ever question the means you used. So it might seem the same phrase, the same meaning, but I think that it is very different for the reason I just said. Talking about justification means to bring a moral point of view. Machiavelli never does something like that. He just says that, like in a mathematical formula, as long as you maintain power, the means you used will never be judged not honorable or something that you shouldn't have used. Someone might question this thing because a lot of politicians, especially in 20th century, used the worst means ever